Thomas the Tank Engine and his friends. Just look at the trouble they can get into. Now ERTL bring you 7 brand new Thomas models to collect. George, the grumpy steamroller. Culdy and Godred, the mountain engines. Diesel 199. Toad, the brake van. The mail trucks. And Scrap Trevor. Children will love them all, and so will Thomas.
You know, when it comes to Thomas the Tank Engine toy lines, nothing comes to mind more than ERTL, the toy line that started it all, and sadly deeply missed to this day. ERTL gave us everything, and I mean everything, from all-starring characters in the show, random background vehicles that you would never even think of, and characters that never appeared in the show at all. I think I speak for everyone when I say ERTL was peak Thomas merch, and something we probably would never see the likes of again. But how did it come to be? In short, ERTL is a former American manufacturing company formed in 1945 specialising in toys, specifically Diecast metal collectible replicas. Following the success of Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends, the ERTL company announced plans for the Diecast range of Thomas produced in 1984. Their 1 in 64 scale range was introduced the following year and became an instant success. First introduced to the line was Thomas, followed by James and Henry a year later. Percy, Annie and Clarabelle would soon be released, followed by the releases of Bertie and Toby in 1988 and Gordon and Edward in 1989. Originally released with paper faces, the line would undergo a change in 1990 with the release of moulds for the engine's faces, and the line would get bigger and bigger as time went on. ERTL went from strength to strength with Thomas as more sublines came into play, such as miniatures, keychains, carry cases, playsets, and even a wind-up line. The company would even go to delve into Thomas' sister's show Tugs with a range of diecast models, but sadly the line was not a runaway success, probably due to the show not airing for long, so the line was never fleshed out. The ERTL Thomas line would go on to run for 19 years up until 2004, when it was decided the range would be discontinued as to not compete with Learning Curve's take-along line that they were trying to push at the time, and thus ERTL Thomas and Friends was lost to time. When it comes to the packaging, the line would vary from beautiful illustrations to downright boring. Starting in 1985 would come the cloud packaging. This was predominantly one colour, often matching the model, with an oval in the centre containing an illustration of the character. Above the illustration was the smoke cloud logo that normally contained Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends, but instead held the name of the character. In 1989 the line was released in the US, but the packaging was a more compact design, moving the illustration of the character from the centre and featuring a consistent blue colour for all models. By the beginning of 1993 the packaging had been revamped in the US, now featuring a Shining Time station theme. By the end of that year, the UK and everywhere else had received packaging featuring the portraits as illustrated by Owain Bell. Both card styles included a collector's card that would be cut out containing a brief description of the character and a card number, as well as the basis in real life. The Shining Time themed packaging would come to an end in 1996, and thus the portrait cards were rolled out across the world. The portrait cards was an image of a character towards the right hand side of the card, passing between a bush of flowers on their left and a mound of grass on the right. Between the characters and the grass, aspects of the British village could be seen in the background, and depending on the character, there were rails, road or water between the flowers and grass. In the year 2000, the last model made in the portrait packaging was released with the Millennium Edition Thomas. The line was then changed again, and featured artwork was removed and predominantly blue background was made consistent with all the models. The revised Thomas and Friends logo, featuring the face of an image of Thomas with the smoke cloud beneath, was made more prominent in the top left hand corner, besides the name of the model in a stylised nameplate. Now, to me, this packaging I've always thought as lazy. I mean, we went from greatness with the portrait series, the beautiful illustrations of the engines of the vehicles, diminished to just a logo and the name. I guess I speak as a collector now, as they just don't have the same charm when displaying them, but from a marketing cost point of view, it makes sense. The packaging would be slightly revamped to coincide with Thomas and the Magic Railroad release, with the models of Lady, Diesel 10, Splatter, Dodge, Thomas, Henry, Gordon, James, Percy, Toby, Bertie, Annie and Clarabelle, and the Troublesome Trucks being released. This was just the Thomas and Friends logo being replaced with the logo of Thomas and the Magic Railroad, and the nameplate was given a wooden render and the blue background being replaced with a sparkling yellow. The card style then changed again in 2002. The prominent logo in the top left hand corner was shrunk, the blue background was replaced with two-tone diagonal stripes, and a pictogram bar was changed to a footer with additional images. A cartoon illustration of the model was included in the top right hand corner, and rails, a road or a station were drawn under the model in their moulded plastic blister. The collector's cards returned to the rear of the packaging with a large copy of illustration on the front and a brief paragraph of the character's personality, but not any factual historical information like the portrait series brought us. And thus, the history of ERTL Thomas line came to an end in 2004, but today the line is still very much in demand. The minefield and prices these things go for now is quite mind-boggling. It's become such a competitive toy line of late, with later releases such as Spencer, Emily and Jock commanding crazy prices.
Thomas, the cheeky, fussy little tank engine, and his pals from Shining Time Station could be rolling down the track at your house now. From the island of Sodor, there's feisty young Mavis, classy Daisy, and mischievous Bill and Ben. Better watch out for those two.
Now ERTL has a whole world of Thomas toys, including 4 colorful adventures from shipyard to construction site. Follow the track and see where it leads you. Shining Time Station's Thomas the Tank Engine from ERTL.
So yeah, Thomas ERTL models. Like I say, some of them go for ridiculous prices these days, and you know, they're getting harder and harder to sort of come by at a really decent price. And obviously if you're lucky enough to have already accumulated them before obviously the price sort of skyrocketed, then really well done to you. Fortunately, I'm of the latter, where I'm slowly just picking them up as time goes on. Now, I just thought I'd show you my loose collection to start off with. So first of all, here we have Bert, which is one of the later releases that they did in the ERTL line. I'm not too sure if it will have a release date there. 1999. So yeah, not one of the later releases ones. I suppose in the portrait series, I think these are one of the last ones to be released in the portrait series. Iron Harry and Iron Bert in that line, so it's always quite nice. And then there's another one. Now this actually came out in the later series, again sort of in the 2000s, 2002. This is Falcon. So they actually decided to do Falcon and Stuart, as well as obviously what they would normally be referred to as Peter Sam and Sir Handel. So it's quite a nice little variant of that one. Then of course we have Toby. Now this one actually came out in sort of that packaging, that sort of mid packaging, 2000s packaging, which I say is quite boring and horrible, but overall really nice little model. Like I say, I've just always liked these. I think the detail on them is fairly consistent. Then we have Wilbert, who was solely a book character, and he was actually solely a book character that came out in Christopher Audrey's books, Wilbert the Forest Engine. So it's nice that they actually represented this, and obviously there is an actual real life Wilbert in real life that's obviously named after the Reverend W. Audrey, so it's quite nice. I believe it's at the Dean Forest Railway it resides in real life. Now this one was actually a set it came in, so this one was in the bubble packaging, the cloud packaging, and it was actually James and his coaches. It actually came as a set overall, so obviously you've got the 2 coaches there with him as well. That was like one of the limited edition sets, but obviously my rule with all of these loose packaging ones was, of course, it always had to be in bag condition, otherwise I would keep them in box. And then of course obviously we have the Flying Scotsman, which again as well, when I was speaking about crazy prices, this is one that really actually goes for quite a hefty price now. I mean, realistically, to get it brand new in box, you're probably at least talking £60 plus. So it's really nice to have this one. I found this one in quite poor condition online on eBay, and of course obviously it's just a Gordon repainted, but I still quite like it personally. But yeah, there is an unboxing on this channel for all of these, so if you want to go into the history of the channel, going through the playlist. And then obviously we have D621, the Diesel, which is obviously known as Bowler in the series due to the bowler hat, which is a nice one again as well. A one-off character, only ever appeared once in one episode, and they did a model of him. So really, really nice. Now we're going to move on to the carded collection. And first off, out the bat is Stepney. And obviously, like I say, this is the portrait series. Really, really, really stunning. I've always liked this sort of portrait series. It's always been the favourite. I think everyone thinks of ERTL. They think of this one anyway. Really, really nice. And then obviously at the back, you've got the historical note. So it's an 060 Terrier engine built in 1872 by William Stroudley for London, Brighton and South Coast Railway. I've always really, really liked this, to the fact that obviously it gives you a little description of the character and historical note. Always really, really liked that they did that with the portrait series. Now, this one actually was a very, very recent addition. I managed to score this for just £5. I couldn't believe it when I picked this up. And I always like the fact as well, even though it covers a bit of the image, I kind of wish it was removed, especially on this one being a limited edition. But it's quite nice. It's a little stamp shot from a time period gone. I haven't still having the sticker on there, $7.99. And this is obviously part of the shiny limited edition range that they did. So I believe they did 6 in total. So I believe there's Rheneas, Duncan, I believe you had Thomas and Percy, they did a Duke, they did a Lord Harry, and Rusty, I believe as well, they did in this limited edition. And I really, really like the shine on that. I mean, Rheneas looks absolutely stunning there. And like I said, that card looks absolutely beautiful. All glimmering. Really, really nice. Sticking with the narrow gauge theme, we go to Duncan. So again, as well, that beautiful carded background, the British countryside in the background, grass and the bushes, flower bush there. Always really, really liked this one. Now we're actually skipping back in time a little bit, and we're going back to some of the classic packaging, the cloud packaging there, and we have Mavis. Now this one is one of my personal favourites. The fact that as well they've chosen this nice sort of maroon, pink, purple colour really, really pops. I mean, the card again, I managed to get this for a steal. Again, I think I paid about £7-8 for this one. So it all depends. If you shop online or you sort of bide your time a little bit, then of course, obviously, you could find these for fairly good prices. But some of them, like the main characters, for example, James, Henry, Percy, you know, you're probably going to pay a little pretty penny for them. And obviously, this was the range up until this point. Brit Allcroft Limited 1993 gives you sort of a timestamp of when this would have come out. But yeah, Mavis, really, really love that one. We stick with that theme, and now we have Toby, the tram engine. Again, as well, I've got this one loose in packaging, and if I'm honest with you, you know, realistically, the model didn't change. They kept it the same way it is. The face actually looks like it's different. He's definitely got a different facial expression there. You can see that actually. One he's smiling, this one he's sort of, I don't know, is it like a gurn? A bit of a cheesy chuffed grin. It's quite strange. But yeah, this one I've always really, really liked. Again as well, nice. I just love this packaging, to be fair. I just think it's nice and simple. I think this is probably the second best after the portrait packaging. You know, you've just got a nice illustration of the character there. Pops in the bubble with the name. Really, really like that one. And who is Toby without Henrietta? So I like the way they sort of kept the same colours card there. Maybe Henrietta's a little bit more mustard yellow. Toby's a little bit more light. But again as well, even for Henrietta, they've done that sort of same card style. Really, really nice with the illustration. Obviously the name in the cloud. Really, really nice little pair there. We then jump back to the portrait series, and we go for the Diesel. So obviously I've got that one loose out of the packaging again as well. So obviously you can sort of see there what it's like out of the packaging. Again as well, really, really nice one. The fact, like I said, it was a one-off character, and ERTL thought, do you know what, let's do a friggin' model of it. Absolutely, absolutely great. And again as well, you've got the historical note on the back. The Diesel is based on a Coco 2 diesel built by English Electric in 1960 as one of the first production line diesels for mainline passenger use. So yeah, really, really obscure one, but nice to have in the collection. We then sort of jump to that boring packaging that I've said about, and we've got Diesel 10. So this sort of would have been pushed out around 2000, 2001. Like I say, very shortly after the Magic Railroad would have come out. This one's actually really nice model, and it's probably one of the best bits of merchandise I think they did for Diesel Den, personally, in my opinion anyway. Like I say, the packaging though, you see what I mean, it's just a bit boring there. Obviously you've just got the logo, Thomas and Friends, Diesel 10 and the nameplate, and you know, you've got a few little symbols here, but that's pretty much it. But again as well, it's nice to have. I probably would prefer it in the Magic Round Row packaging, and obviously there's nothing in the back around at all. It's literally just, yeah, bunch of jargon on the back, and this was released in 2002, this one. But Diesel 10, really nice character to have in the collection. And I did actually fairly pick up quite recently quite a few of these, and again all in this sort of boring packaging. So now we have obviously Annie and Clarabelle. Nice to have in the collection, but obviously I'd prefer them in the Portrait series or even in the Cloud series, but obviously for a later date. But Annie and Clarabelle, still nice to have. And weirdly enough, I've got another Toby in this packaging, and this is obviously the packaging that Toby came out of with that grin. Don't ask me how I've accumulated all these different Tobys. I just have. I wouldn't even say he's my favourite character by far, actually. I like the guy, but no. But, you know, got another Toby. I don't really know what else to say about that. It's just good old Toby. Now, I picked up Bulgy as well in this packaging. Now, like I said, this was a job lot I got off eBay with the Toby, the Annie and Clarabelle, the Diesel 10, the Diesel in the Portrait packaging. And I got that at quite a good little price, and I realistically wanted it for Diesel 10 because I thought it was a bit of a steal in terms of how much I paid this for. But to be fair, I've always liked Bulgy. I've always actually thought the stickeration was quite nice there. I think the face is actually fairly accurate for the character of the show, and overall he's a bit of a G. We then go back to the Portrait series, and we've got 16. So again as well, he was purely just a book related character, but you know, they decided to do a bit of merchandise on him. So yeah, that is 16. Next we have a bit of a double pack. So we've actually got SC Scruffy, which I've always thought was quite a nice little addition there to the collection. I think the face is fairly accurate again as well to the character, and it also comes with a troublesome truck, so it's a bit of a double pack. I think it's nice that they included that in this one as well. And again as well, I like the little snapshot in time there. Boswell's $3.99. Never heard of Boswell's, don't even know where that comes from, but again, nice to have. Historical note: all trucks are mixed good wagons which date from various periods. I guess really there's not too much more you could really say about an historical note for Scruffy, is there? We then get back on to rolling stock again, and it's the Fusit fans. So like I said, when they did background, really random background things, this is one of them, and I really like the fact that they've done stuff like this. I don't know why they didn't call it gunpowder wagons or trucks, but they've just called it Fusit, as if everyone's going to know what Fusit means. But still really nice. We then go on to, like I said, obscure background things, and we've got the crane. So again as well, one really random thing that they did, but again as well, really nice, and it all sort of that world building in ERTL that ERTL really specialised in, and why people love them so much. It's really world building, and obviously creating merchandise of things that realistically would never be seen in any other lines. We then go back to the OG packaging again, in sort of that bubble packaging, and we've got a James. So that's actually a paper face one, this one. So this one you're probably talking around 88 maybe, early 1990 for this one. I've managed to get this unpunched as well. I managed to pick this up for around £15. I'm really pleased with this. Mint condition, really jewel of the collection, probably par for the last one. And the last one for me in the collection, steering away from Thomas, is 10 cents, Tugs. Now the card's a little bit faded, but just for the fact I managed to get one of these in pristine condition, then I did. I'm really happy with it. It's not in the best of condition, you know, obviously you've got creases there, the card's faded, but overall still brand new in packaging. You know, long story short, I picked this up I think for around £30 when I was on my trip to the Isle of Wight. I offered them a one-time offer there because it was in the window and it had been reduced already, and they took up the offer. So really nice. It's such a shame that obviously the Tugs line never carried on, but and the back of these obviously it just gives you look out for other lines, and obviously it's released there in 1989, but yeah, it's a shame obviously they never carried on.
Children all love Thomas the Tank Engine and his friends. Just look at the trouble they can get into. ERTL make 38 collectible characters, including Harold, Bulgy, Daisy, Devious Diesel, George and Toad. Keep your favourites in the Thomas carry case. Children will love them all, and so will Thomas.
And yeah, ERTL, 19 years of greatness. These little things have given so much joy to me and thousands of people around the world, and obviously we still collect them to this day. So yeah, I really hope you've enjoyed that. If you have, give us a like, comment down below and subscribe. Let me know what collection you have, how many you have, what ones you wish you had, and obviously what your thoughts are on ERTL and how you remember them. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. See you guys.